Glenn Jessome, welcome back onto the program.
Peter, great to see you. It wasn't that long ago I saw you in Zurich.
Yeah. Well, you were probably the busiest man in Zurich, having your permit in hand during the show, and everyone wanted to see you. Um, Roll forward 20 days. You've also done a bought deal financing in that period, so you've got your permit, you've got you've got the money in the bank.
But yes, I'm sure you're going to ask me about all these things. But listen, wonderful experience in Zurich. I very well received over there was our new permit. Um, Big crowds we were talking to. I think you were at one of the dinners, and but I mean, I just have to explain to my shareholders or those that follow us. I've been quiet for a while, and that was a big surprise. I think when I said goodbye to you in Zurich at that one dinner, I was moving on to Saint Gallen in Switzerland for a big presentation there. We were continuing on to the show in Frankfurt, and then we were going to one in London, and of course, right out of nowhere, the Bank of Montreal, BMO, just totally surprising to us, offered us a $40 million bought deal financing. I was offered that when I was 10 minutes from going to speak to 60 people in St. Gallen who wanted to hear about Silver Tiger. But what people may not know is that, and this is the securities lawyer in me coming out. As soon as we accept that bought deal financing, I have to stop marketing. The company has to stop marketing. There's no interviews, there's no shows. So everything from that point forward, we had to cancel Frankfurt and had to cancel London, and I can't even talk to my shareholders. So I know it seems maybe it's been a little quiet, but that's the reason. So we really didn't get to market the greatest news the company's had to this point, receiving our permit, because of that. But boy, pretty happy now to have that closed yesterday and to be able to come back and start communicating, what we're going to do. The past is the past. We have everything we need now to build an amazing bulk tonnage mine in the Stockbrook Upside Zone, and then transition to high grade ore underground, the underground. So, mission accomplished so far. We've done everything we said we do, and it's an exciting time. And I owe it all to my team. I have an amazing team in Mexico. We're a Mexican company, Peter, and I think you've heard me say this before. We have 3 employees in Canada, me being one of them. We basically work very hard to tell the story all over the world, but really to raise the capital, which is hundreds of millions of dollars to get to the point we're at. But all of our builders, our team in Mexico that navigated to get us to the point to have this permit, they're all Mexican as specialists in mining, and now that number will go from 30 to 40 to hundreds as we start the process to build this project. So very exciting time, but all of our success, or the vast majority of it, to our team in Mexico. They've done an amazing job.
No, agreed. Like I said, it's been 20 days since you have announced the permit, and in that period, you've also got the equity you need to fund the project as well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Just a few questions around the permit. I know that there have been some questions around the wording of it. Obviously, the stockwork zone. Just wanted to really clarify that does entail the open pit, and and you did mention it was sort of related to the PFS as well. So we expecting the same sort of tons per day throughput open pit that we saw in the PFS.
Absolutely. This is the approval to build pursuant to the mine plan, the economics. We're going to talk about some of those in a few minutes. Pursuant to the PFS, which everyone has the chance and opportunity to review. This is a bulk tonnage stockwork zone, oxidized surface mining, and we have the permit for that. As you said, open pit. That's just a method you use basically to extract the ore. But yes, we are fully permitted for all activities for the PFS. We're going to talk about that a little bit because the amount of money this open pit makes at the prices we're at today are incredible. So yeah, that's all done, and of course we're not only permitted for the stockwork zone, permitted for the underground, which we'll talk about near the end and what the plan is for that.
So this is a new permit for the stockwork zone, i.e. the open pit area, and you're already permitted
Right.
for the underground, and we can talk about that a bit later. We're expecting a PA on that, and then obviously that to come into production at some point
Right.
as well, right? So, okay, why don't we remind ourselves now that we're genuinely in a position where you're permitted, you have the equity to finance. I'm sure the debt financing will come through very soon as well. Why don't we just remind ourselves then, like you said, at $53 silver, what this thing might look like?
So look, let's just remind people a little bit, Peter, about where we are for a second, why that's important, and then jump right into how we're going to roll this thing out, and then really talk about, the most important thing in front of us. Let's build this mine in record time. So if people remember, we're in Sonora. That's a wonderful mining state because a big chunk of its GDP comes from mining. So you have everything you need there: drilling companies, miners, contract miners, incredible state. I don't want people to forget the following though, because and remind me at the end to talk a little bit about the more blue sky part of this, which now we can start to unfold that we've, accomplished mission one. This is 30,000 hectares, 25 kilometers. Everything that we've done and worked on and talk about today in building a big bulk tonnage mine at surface and a big underground high grade deposit is in a couple of kilometers of this, 2 or 3 kilometers, where we've spent, hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of meters of drilling to deliver PFS, PEA, and now build this thing. Now have the right and been granted the permit to go forward with this plan, which we've been talking about for a long, long time. So this is exciting. Let's talk about that at the end. That's really exciting. And I think we may have talked about it before, but give you some updates on what's going on. Enough about that. Let's talk about the business model. Really simple. Bulk tonnage, 9-year mine life, enough ore here. That's only 60% of the ore that gives us 9 years. That's what we're talking about, the PFS, the economics. We'll go back and push that back in 9 years, and we'll get the others 40% of that ore. But we're only talking about 90% of this now. Think about that. We're going to go talk about the economics on that, how we build that in a minute. And now we're fully permitted for this. So exciting. Have the permit for the underground. That'll be door number 2. Look, I've been talking about the PEA on this for a while. We've worked very hard, and the PEA will come in January. It got slowed down. I think I want to explain this to my shareholders because I really couldn't say anything about it. Getting our permit a couple of weeks ago, that wasn't just like I woke up and, oh boy, there's a permit in the mail. The years and year process, and I've thanked our team so much for that. But I could see that, summer, fall, it was coming. It was just going to be a matter of when we issued it. So what I had to do, I had to go all hands on deck because when we got this, for the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, we've been heavily preparing to start to build if we were lucky enough to get the permit. So because of that, I don't have a bulk tonnage team and a high grade underground team. The whole team focused on this. That meant that the PEA is going to be delayed several months in coming out. I couldn't tell people that because I'd be kind of letting the cat out of the bag. So it was hard for me when asked, why is the P taking so long? Is something wrong? No, nothing's wrong. I'm just focusing on, in my mind was, I'm focusing on the biggest prize right now that's in front of me, the quickest way to a huge revenue. And so you're going to see that in January. I can't wait to get that out. It's going to be exciting. But that was why we had a little bit of a delay. Not going to talk about the underground today. This is the show today. This is the big show. This is what we've worked so hard for. This was a hill that I and the company had to die on to build this first and then do this. I've always said number 1 and number 2, and luckily, and through some hard work and some getting this permit, we'll be able to do it in the correct order and do number 1 first. Let's go talk about what that means. Okay. And I think the slide we want to talk about is the sensitivity table. I told my guys today, it's incredible. I told the team they have to add some more columns here. I mean, when's this going to I did like an hour ago because I was looking at it. I hadn't marketed in a while, as I said. We were on the bench. So I pulled out my slide. I said, oh boy. So this is now, I think, 53, and this is 4,200. So I said, guys, I mean, we got to lose a couple of columns here, and we just got to keep going, which is incredible. But let's just say, for today's purposes, we're going to use this column. And that's a little below market right now, but we're going to use it. So we're going to use it. 60% of the ore, this is all in the PFS. This is what we're permitted for. Fully permitted for everything in that PFS. Done. Is 60% of that ore gives us a 9-year mine life. We optimize that so people understand. And we're going to talk about the gentleman in a minute whose plan this is, Francisco Alvarez. We looked at 100 shells of how we would mine this when we got the PFS first, and we picked the quickest, most profitable to make money. And that meant that 60% of the ore is done first, and then you would push back after the 9-year mine life, and you get the rest of the ore. So think about this. This is only 60% of the ore in the pit, and look what's delivering. Unbelievable. That being said, now let's look at the numbers. 86 million in the PFS. These are all US dollars, okay? So people know. Is the CapEx. We now have, I think it's close to 60 million USD in treasury. What a strong position to be in. I will be able to easily, early next year, bolt on the rest of the required debt to do this. I just have to choose which provider I'm going to use on what I think are fantastic terms. Stay tuned for that in the new year. So we've got the money. We've got the right now to do it with the permit. What's it generate? Incredibly, it generates an NPV of 700 million US, which is incredible. An 87% IRR. Good projects 35, 30 is great, 40, 86. Pays all capital back in a year. But look at this. That's more than that. It's more than that because we're under. It makes 940 million USD after tax free cash flow over the 9 years. Over 100 million USD free cash flow per year. That's incredible. So let's see if you just look in economics, because I don't have to drill any more holes. We will, because we're going to add more ounces. But everything we now can do is as of right. Money, permit, we'll talk with the team in a minute, is that it will generate that extremely, extremely high cash flow. What does that mean? How are these projects? Because we're going from developer to producer. It's an 18-month build period. That's a short period because it's a simpler method of mining. So if you look in Mexico, most of the miners that are in production are trading today at 1.1 or 1.2 times their NPV. So that's just, because we trade in Canadian at around today, call it 380 million market cap. If you convert this to Canadian, it'll be a little bit higher. You're at about a 1.1 billion CDN. We're trading at a 380 million CDN market cap. As we build this and go up the Lassonde curve, we're so fortunate to be able to go up the Lassonde curve. 1 in 1,000 get to go up there. It's crazy. That's the real number. So it's a privilege to be able to do that. Again, back to my team for getting us to here. If you just trade on people that want to own the stock here, and we execute just on the pit, execution is the key word. We execute, and our team builds it. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then if these prices stay, then I don't have to dance up and down. I don't have to wave my arms. We don't have to add anything more to this portion of the deposit. We will, but we don't have to. And just take the first 9 years of it. And that should be, on the basis of way companies like ours are valued, that should be the trade. And that's a very good trade. So that's sort of how we look at valuation on this portion of the deposit. And, that's how people should start thinking about this. A company is going to transition from not really developer, we'll be a builder now, and we'll move towards building this. And we think that, that's the kind of way we think people should think about it. As we build it and we get closer, it's not going to be an overnight jump. You're going to slowly start to move up that infamous Lassonde curve. So, there are some, chances, I think, for those that are a little shorter term than the 18-month build period to basically take part in some of the value creation that we're going to have in the next 18 months. But that's how we look at it now. We just need to execute. Let's talk about the team. I think I told you about this gentleman previously. Francisco Albalez is, we were so fortunate to get him. And I'm going to say why he was so important. When he joined us 2 years ago, he had spent 25 years in Mexico building mines. He's one of the best mine builders there. The previous company he worked for was Argonaut. And from 2010 till he left and joined us in 23, I guess it was, he was responsible for building their two big bulk tonnage mines in Sonora, the same state as we're in. And they were they were lower grade, moved much more tons, very profitable, and they drove that company. And he operated them. He drilled them, developed them, built them, operated them until they were depleted. And then he joined us. We were so fortunate to get him. He comes along with his team, with his key lieutenants, and the 200-person mining team, which still lives mainly in Hermosillo, which is a couple of hours from site. So we're so fortunate to have him. So think about as we try to now generate, if at these prices, this type of return, this 100 million over a year revenue you can make. We have 60 of the 86 in treasury, a clear sight line to easily getting the rest of the debt. We have the permit, and also we have Francisco and his team to build it. Execute. That's all we need to do now is execute, and this will be absolutely fantastic.
Glenn, can I ask you of the 86 in terms of capex, how much are you anticipating of that to be debt? How much of the 60 million of equity are you?
Well, it's hard to say that. I mean, we intend. What you always want to do is spend your equity first. You don't want. Listen, this is the mining business. Prices change. The world changes. It's a hard business. You never want to put yourself in a position where if things change, you have too much debt. We've been doing this in our group for a long time. So, we're going to go down the road as much as we can with this equity and then use the debt. You usually use the debt at the end. You don't want to be paying for that any longer than you have to. But to be in a position where, what I don't know what that number is it 80%, whatever it is, to have that much equity, boy, the shareholders, I know they'll be saying, oh, you had loot for that. They should, if they're along for the long haul, if they're only here for a month or two, well, they can say that. But if you really are what we are, I don't sell any shares. I don't sell any shares until this is built and making tons of money and trading like water. So I'm here for the long haul. A lot of our shareholders have been here with me since day one. They should be very happy that we have a chunk of equity and not going to become debt poor because that's where the project gets at risk. And, this is the right decision to have this much equity. It puts us in an incredible driver's position to get this thing built as quickly as possible.
And just quickly as well, when are you looking at in terms of timelines on the debt? You were saying obviously PEA is coming out in January. I think you mentioned that debt should be lined up early next year as well.
I would say that's an early year for me to come and tell the market about that. It won't be this year because we have, as I said, almost 60 million USD in the bank. Some people are forced to get their debt because maybe they have 10 million and they're going to borrow the other 100 and then rely on the debt. We have such a runway and such a, in the driver's position, I keep saying, with respect to the debt terms we'll get, but also when we're going to use it. So that's number one. This is an 18-month build pursuant to the PFS. We're going to do all we can to stay on that timeline. That's a very quick build in the mining world. You see 2.5, 3. Some people are saying it's 4-year build. So we want, and why that's important is, look, I don't want to bust the balloon on the parade. These prices won't be here forever. I know everybody thinks they're going up. It's going to be $100 silver and $10,000 gold. Bring it on. But we did our study over here at 26 and 2150, and we still make lots of money there. We make 40 million USD a year over there. Beautiful. That's how profitable this project is. But, we want to get to production fast. We think this is going to last for a while. It's just our thought. And you want to be making metal at these prices and generating this type of revenue. So that's why speed to market is very important here. And we think we are not only in Mexico, but of the silver miners across the world. We're out in front now, and we should be to production if we execute. And I told you who's going to execute for us, the team we have. It'll put us in a front position. So it's going to be very, very exciting, and that's why we want to go very fast.
So when you say you're not waiting on the debt to build this thing, when are you expecting a final investment decision to pull the trigger? And because you were already doing some early groundworks before anyway, so are you effectively in construction today, or are we waiting on that?
I find like, when you get and this will just show a little map of the project so we can talk about some of the things. When you talk about, and I find it to, we're making a construction decision and everybody announces that. Most people announce that they have the debt because it's a 300 or $400 million capex and they've got maybe 30 or 40 million in the bank. And so pretty hard to say we're building it without that. I will come out and make the appropriate announcements on debt and everything when it's the right time. But, I'm kind of alluding to the fact that, and I'll give you an example of some of the things we've done. When we were comfortable and confident that we would get the permit we required to build this bulk tonnage deposit as outlined in the PFS, I could see that coming this summer. As an example, how we use Caps Cassidy, KCA. They're the best bulk tonnage mining engineering plant on the planet. In order for us to get our final engineering so we can build, that's about a 5 to 6 month process to do the final engineering. It's a big check. Don't quote me. Maybe it's a couple of million USD. I don't remember what it was, but it's a big number. It's not hundreds of thousands. So that being said, so that will all be finished on December 1st because we made the decision back in June or July that we were comfortable enough to say, and many would have waited till they had the permit. And now we'd have 6 months to do final engineering before you can start building anything. So when you say the build decision, we've been making decisions for 6 months, which are very important. That was a big one. We also built, I think we've talked about this, spent several $1 million building a 365-day, 60, 70 km/h road, which we actually finished ahead of time. That's a couple of million. Those are the things that take time. That's a 6 to 8 month build. That's done. So these are the, when you say, are you constructing? Look, are we pouring concrete and installing equipment? No, but that ain't the first step. What we've done very strategically is got to the point where we are for maybe January 1st, because everything's going to slow down in Mexico in December. We know that. We're in a position to say, okay, now we really start to both things together. So we're ahead of the curve. This is the time frame. And even if this drug to 24, it's still so fast. But we're going to do all we can to stick to the time frame of 18 months because that's what's in the PFS. And that will start ticking early in the new year.
I was going to say, so it looks as though obviously you'll get the final engineering in December. Things do generally slow down in December in Mexico anyway. So I'm assuming early, say January, the official, even though you're not calling it an official build decision, but that's when ground will be broken fully and we can expect production, what, June of 27? Is that the plan?
That's if 18 months works, that you can do that math. So is summer of 27. That would be our target. Can it be shorter? Well, I want to say that because my team in Mexico might just hear this video and go over the head with something. So I'm not going to say that. Could be a bit longer. It will not matter if we're in this environment we're in because the money this project's going to make and the quick payback, as I showed you, and some of those financial numbers would just be is fantastic.
And of the 60 million that you've raised, you have committed to doing some more exploration north and south of the project. This is that more regional.
Great question because we've got, listen, this is, what we're going to do here. I just walked you through it. We can do it. As of right now, we're starting. Amazing. Permitted for this beautiful high grade underground deposit. We talked a lot about that because we had to focus here for the last 3 or 4 months, and you can see some of the things we were doing and building and getting ready with for getting the permit here. That PEA will come out in January. I can talk about that when that happens. Can't wait. But we got to wait till January because there's a little bit of cleanup to do now that we had to just we had to lay that down for a few months. And now trust me, it's up and moving. Now, the third part is something very exciting. Remember having that much in the bank US allows you to drive this faster also, to do some more drilling, to move some of PEA, you're gonna have some inferred in there. You're gonna have to move that to indicate it when you do the PFS, which we will do. So, there's gonna be some more drilling here. The flexibility this gives us is incredible having this money. And it allows us not only to drive this faster, build this, drive this faster so we can build this, but also finally, because I think I made it, and I couldn't say why. I think I was on here maybe when you asked me, what's this upside exploration? I said probably 5 or 6 months ago, I made the decision that the team want to get here and here. This is the couple of kilometers where everything is we're going to build bulk tonnage and high grade underground. Okay. Or so there's 10 kilometers here and 10 here. You may have heard I said 6 months ago, well, I let the guys go and start exploring down there again, some of the exploration geologists, because it was pretty apparent that things were going to work out well here to me, as I said in the summer. So got a head start on this a little bit. This is very exciting. I think we've talked about this. I don't want to spend too much time on it because the big show is we're getting ready bulk tonnage, and we're getting ready to, and the economics on that at these prices are incredible, as we said. But that doesn't mean we can't have a drill rig or two here next year. Basically, because this was the El Tigre mine, we drilled underneath, under, around, and north and south of it. It went really well. Everybody would have to agree. It went really, really well. Look where we are now to build that mine, and that's not a pipe dream. That's not. Oh, maybe we will. We will. And we have the right to do that now. So at the same time, this was the Tiger, this was the North Tigre mine. Same vintage, town up there, had their own mill. Actually, the company that owned this, Lucky Tiger Mining, leased these concessions to the North Tigre Mining Company, another American company. They built, it wasn't as big as Tiger, but it was a beautiful mine. They had their own town, their own mill. And in 1930, they went home, just like they did from El Tigre. Silver was 10 cents. It was bye-bye time, and that's sad. But if you remember, when we first got to Tiger, this is important. That underground looked just like that. You remember? We went through all that. We mapped it, sampled, we drilled the Tiger mine under and around it, north and south. Wow, look where we are now. Well, it's kind of rinse and repeat to the north, and we've done a lot of this work already because if you look at what as I said, that North Tigre mine, that's it. We've been through several kilometers of that already. We've mapped it, we've LiDAR'd it, we've sampled it. It's wonderful high grade underground ore and bulk tonnage potential at surface. We put a few drill holes in early when we get up there. We think it's going to look a lot like Tiger, but we're going to drill it. So all that work's done now. So exciting. You're going to see some drill rigs up here hunting for what we call Tiger 2. And then down here later in the year, there are three. So funny. The guy who discovered Tiger was at Gold Hills Discovery. He sold the conditions to Lucky Tiger and built the El Tigre mine, 1908 to 1930. He took his winnings and he went south. He died down here, I'm pretty sure. He lived there the rest of his life. He built 3 mines down here, Louis de Oro, La Mancha, and El Toro. We've been in them, look exactly like the Tiger and the North Tigre. Later in the year, we'll get down there, we'll sample LiDAR, sample underground, and maybe you're late next year, there's a drill rig down here. But this is what the future is, Peter, and I couldn't talk about it before because we had to focus on the prize. Get the right to build this bulk tonnage and underground mine. Done. Have the money, have the team. At some point when this is in production and it's generating at today's prices, the first part of the project generates over 100 million USD after tax. I got to do something with that. Pay the debt back. But there'll be 9 drill rigs here, 8 or 9 here, and we'll be adding ounces in our opinion of our next 20, 30 years. They'll too. This is a true district, and you never heard me say that until now. But we've done the work. Now we can say we're developing district because we're going to build the first part, not a few drill holes now. So exciting times, but the show here really is, we are so excited. And this is what, what I get up and now spend the vast majority of our time on. We're going to get the PEA. We're going to develop the underground. We're going to get the PFS. We're going to drill that. We're going to go north and south and find all kinds of more high grade ounces. That's what I think about every day. and how fast I can get to 100 million USD after tax free cash flow a year. That changes the whole complexion and drives massive value from where we are right now. And that's what shareholders want.
Okay, I agree. Just to close up, because I just want to get a really good idea as to how these different areas are going to be progressing in tandem with obviously building this open pit. So in terms of, you've got the PEA coming out in January. When can we expect, because I assume you're going to want to progress the underground pretty rapidly. When are we going to be expecting more drilling? Potentially, when are you aiming for a PFS? When are we expecting drill results to the north and the south? Just give us some.
I'm not going to give you dates on that right now, but I will tell you something that's very important. Okay. And I think people should pay attention to this. Okay. This is, I can tell you about our plan on this. In Mexico, how it usually works is, and use Mulatos as an example, just south of us, the big Alamos mine. You have to mine out the open pit. And they mined out all those open pits of Mulatos, and they just went underground this year. I think after 20 years of taking the ore out of those of that bulk tonnage deposit, and they went underground. We have no intention here, if our study will allow it, of waiting 9 years to go and build the underground. Why can't you? But there's a reason for that. You can operate an underground mine under a bulk tonnage deposit while it's being mined, but you have to put in a crown pillar of concrete. Way too expensive. Like an underground ceiling. Can you imagine? For a kilometer. Not going to happen. Luckily, only a certain small amount of our ore is actually underneath the bulk tonnage deposit. A good chunk of the ore that you'll see for our underground is not affected by that. So what we're trying to do, because we love $50 silver and $4,000 gold, those who can make the metal at those prices will win, is we're trying to have this go very fast. PEA, who knows if we can get to PFS if we're generating cash flow like I talked about, because we're going to build it. It'll self-fund. We'll self-fund the underground. Of course we will. But we're going to try to have our studies show, so people pay attention, that this could be like what we would call a bolt-on, that we could do this and mine this, but also mine this at the same time. That's the win. And that's why this PEA has been, very strategically prepared, we think. And we're not there yet. You'll see in January that that's what we're trying to accomplish. So rest assured, this will go very fast. As far as drilling, putting some drill holes up here, the first, there won't be drilling down here till at least the second half of next year. The first drilling will be here. The reason is we know much more about this. This is really brownfields. This is greenfields. And we have full road access up here for drill rigs. There's not going to be 5 or 6 drill rigs here. You'll see one start, but we think those results are going to be incredible as we carry out the build here, showing more and more ounces, and then time more and more ounces here. So that's sort of the time frame. Next year is going to be a very exciting, very busy year.
Glenn, it's yeah, I mean, what a story, and I'm so happy for you and the team and everyone in Mexico who's going to be working on this. It's been great following the journey, and it seems like it's only just getting started now. Funny enough,
it is, but people forget that we acquired this in 2017. We went through a very not a good precious metals market for the vast majority from 17 until recently. And the team just put their head down. We raised well in excess of $100 million, hundreds of thousands of meters of drilling, all those studies, MREs, PEAs, PFSs. There's no overnight success stories in this game. It takes the average time, I think I read, Peter, is 17 years from first drill hole to production. We're going to do it in far less, but you're still going to be, talking about a decade. So yeah, it's been a long journey, and this is not for the faint of heart, as we like to say, because it's hard to do this. So that's why I'm so proud of my team in Mexico, our team in Mexico. This is a major accomplishment for them. Without them, that Mexican team, none of this could have been accomplished. So yeah, it's a good place, but that's all in the rearview mirror. That's all. What do they call that? History. It's now we're here now. January 1 comes. It's all about execution. It's all about building this and then transitioning to the underground and then, exploring north and south to show that not only do we have this, but we have a long life district, which will look very similar north and south to what we have now.
Well, Glenn, best of luck over December, and why don't we catch up again when the PEA is out in January?
That would be, and give you an update on all kinds of other things, what's progressed since then. I think that'd be fantastic, and I can't wait to tell people about that. It's going to be exciting. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
no, I'm excited too. Glenn, thank you for your time.
Thank you.